You want to find them? Yes. Okay. Hi, everyone. Welcome to our gluten-free holidays presentation today with Cassandra. If you don't know Cassandra, she will introduce herself more, but she's our nurse practitioner here, and she's great. She has a family and is, good at cooking gluten-free and teaches a lot of her patients about this too. So this is something we've been excited about for a few months, and we're so glad that you could come. She's going to present and go through some practical tips, and then we're going to do a Q&A at the end. So you're welcome to partake there. Anyone joining live, you're welcome to send in questions, and I'll read those out loud to Cassandra as well. Thanks for being here.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for coming. As Kayla said, my name is Cassandra. I'm one of the nurse practitioners here, and I work in all the offices pretty much. Strasburg and Mannheim mostly. I do see patients in Mechanicsburg one day a month, but I don't think anybody drove down quite that far. So gluten-free holidays can be tricky, but hopefully after tonight, you'll find a couple more ways to navigate them, and I'll give you some resources, and I'm really happy to answer any questions that you have. I've lived this way for a long time now. So what is gluten? Gluten is a protein that's found in primarily wheat, barley, and rye. So foods are kind of like a pearl necklace, and you can break foods down into every individual pearl, and gluten is one of the pearls that make up the necklace of wheat, barley, rye, and a whole bunch of other things that I'm going to show you. So why do so many people now have either celiac disease or non-celiac gluten sensitivity, meaning they don't have celiac disease, but when they eat gluten, they don't feel good, they get sick? Or why do we think it's a problem in the functional medicine world? So first I'll talk a little bit about celiac disease. So celiac disease is an autoimmune disease where when you eat wheat, your body attacks your own intestines. It makes it very, very angry. Not only does it cause digestive issues, it puts you at risk for a lot of other health problems, anything from heart disease to very specific types of cancer. So people who truly have celiac disease literally cannot eat wheat. And we don't use the word should a lot here, but I would go so far as to say should not eat wheat, even if they, quote, feel okay, because it's still doing a lot of damage on the inside. So everybody else who doesn't have celiac disease, but doesn't feel well when they eat wheat, we kind of lump them under non-celiac gluten sensitivity. So those are oftentimes people who have bloating, gas, stomach upset, or other autoimmune diseases that can be further complicated by eating wheat. So a big one is thyroid disease. And this has even hit mainstream medicine, so that's how we know it's getting big. To your immune system, everything is just a chain of letters, a bunch of numbers or letters strung together. And thyroid tissue and gluten look very, very similar to each other. So every time you eat gluten, you're encouraging your immune system to keep attacking your thyroid. The reason why I'm so passionate about gluten is my husband has full-blown severe celiac disease. He's often here when I talk. He knows I talk about him. And my daughter has non-celiac gluten sensitivity. So my poor husband turned 40 and our twins were born, and he got really, really sick. And at first it was kind of funny. In hindsight, it wasn't. But at the time, it was like, oh, haha, you can't have a beer anymore. You're 40. That's what happens. And then it was like, oh, you ate a burger and you got sick. Like, haha, like, must be your gallbladder. And then all of a sudden, it wasn't so funny anymore, because then he was throwing up every time he ate, right? So then I started getting real nervous. And I was pretty concerned that he could have, like, stomach cancer, because then he started losing a bunch of weight. So I got him in with a stomach doctor. They did a scope. That's how you diagnose celiac disease. There's a blood test you can do. But they took a biopsy, and the doctor came out and said, I don't know, everything looked fine. But then when that biopsy came back, it showed your guts look like this. You have these guys that stick up called villi, and then the dents in between are called crypts. And this has way less surface area, right, than this does. So that's how you absorb all your nutrients. So in celiac disease, the body attacks these and chews them down until your guts are totally flat, and then you can't absorb anything. So that's where he was at on his biopsy, totally flat guts. He was super sick. Luckily, I had just started working here. And so that was really fortunate for my family, because even after we took all the gluten out, he was still getting sick. So I had just started. Dr. Turnbaugh said, don't worry. He gave me a big bag full of supplements. We put him on a 2-year gut protocol. He's fine now. So fast forward, we decided never to feed the children gluten. But if you've had children or been around children, you know sometimes they do things. And so we were at a New Year's party, and it was like the house was like 4 levels, right? So kids are running up and down, parents are running up and down, and my daughter sees this plate of store-bought cookies with rainbow sprinkles. She had never eaten anything like that in her life. So she kept eyeing them up. I kept saying, no, no, sissy. And I think she must have been 3 at the time, like just 3, like 3 in October. And next thing I look over and she's eaten like the whole plate of cookies. I'm like, it's time to go. So we go home and she starts acting real crazy, like ripping at my clothes, hitting at me. My kids were early talkers. She kept saying, there's a ballerina in my head. I'm like, what does that mean, right? And then I thought, oh my gosh, I bet this kid hit her head running up and down the stairs. She has a concussion and I didn't see it. And of course, this stuff happens at bedtime, right? So now I'm like, oh, I have to put her in bed. What if she has a concussion? I'm all worried. I'm like, well, we'll see what happens. So the next 2 weeks were awful. She was fully potty trained. She would go over, stand on the floor and pee, right in like the middle of the living room. Just bizarre behaviors. And it slowly ramped down. And then I realized, oh my gosh, she ate that whole plate of cookies. She's reacting. So we got some really specialized blood work, which showed she did not have celiac disease. And if we had done traditional blood work, she would have tested negative. And a traditional doctor would have said, keep feeding that kid gluten, she's fine. But we did some really advanced testing. And I found she's not allergic to gluten. She's allergic to every other protein in wheat. So there's like 9 or 11 proteins or something. Every other one she was allergic to, and yellow dye. So she has not had gluten that I'm aware of since then, or dye. My twins are 9 now. My son has never had gluten that I'm aware of. So I've never been able to test him, because that's kind of the tricky part too, is we don't know how much you have to eat or for how long to test positive. So sometimes patients come to us and they're like, I've been gluten-free for many years, should we test me? Not really, because you're not going to test positive. And am I going to tell you to eat a food that makes you sick anyway? No. So that's kind of why I'm so passionate about it. It's impacted my family on multiple different levels. The other thing is, this is really bad news. Everybody in the whole wide world gets leaky gut from gluten. There is no way around that. How do I know this? If you just type in gluten and zonulin, this nice study will pop up. So they studied people with celiac disease, people with non-celiac gluten sensitivity, and healthy controls. And everybody in this study, when they ate gluten and they drew their blood, spiked a chemical in the blood called zonulin. So zonulin is literally the chemical that goes in, takes your little gut cells that should be tightly packed together and rips them apart, right? Why? Gluten's a really big molecule, right? So if this is like broccoli, gluten's like this. Gums are like this. So that's why a lot of people react to gums. So in order for that big molecule to pass through, because foods get broken down to the tiniest piece possible so you can absorb them as nutrition, your gut cells have to rip apart. Now, what's the problem there? What's the problem with leaky gut? Okay, that big gluten molecule passes through, but now so do all kinds of other things. So there's these little inflammatory guys there called LPSs, a piece of egg that wasn't broken down to the smallest piece possible. All these things are leaking through into your bloodstream. And now your immune system does its job. And it says, oh my gosh, look at all these invaders. They're here to kill us, right? I'm going to have to start dumping out attack cells, attack cells, attack cells. Everything's trying to kill us. So now your immune system's all revved up, angry in this attack, attack, attack mode. So that's why in functional medicine, we believe it pushes a lot of other diseases, particularly autoimmune diseases, because everybody in the whole wide world gets leaky gut from gluten for at least a couple hours. Now, if you're healthy, whatever that means, they should seal back up. How often do people eat gluten? Breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snacks, right? Goldfish all day for kids, right? They start with cereal or toast. They have some goldfish, sandwich for lunch, pasta, bread, something at dinner. So it's all day, every day. So people just are constantly giving themselves leaky gut. So sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but it's kind of all out there. All right, so I said primarily wheat, barley, and rye, but there's a whole bunch of grains that have gluten in them. So a lot of these up here are ancient grains, like freekeh and farro, farina. Those are, a lot of people consider them to be healthy grains because they're really old. They're not modern grains, but they all do contain gluten, which is a bummer. My husband's family is actually Syrian, so he grew up on bulgur wheat, and like a whole lot of it. It's in like every dish they made. Einkorn, I get a lot of questions about einkorn and sourdough. So einkorn is a little bit of an older wheat. Ein meaning one, korn meaning grain, right? It has one little grain at the top. So some people, not celiac, but some gluten-sensitive people do feel better on einkorn because it's a different protein structure inside the food itself. It is still gluten though. What about sourdough, right? Someone just told me today, Olive Garden has sourdough pasta now. I feel two ways about that. One, I would never eat at Olive Garden. And two, it's still gluten, I'm sorry. So sourdough knocks it down by about 90%. If you love your sourdough, ask anybody who works here for a gluten-free sourdough starter. A lot of people here are making sourdough, and if you're at our Fall Fest, there was a lot of it here. It is possible to do GF, which we'll call gluten-free for short, sourdough. Also, I'll show you on my tips and tricks. There's a company called Char, and they make a really nice sourdough. It's also like $6 for this, like 5 pieces. So I have it now and then as a treat, but they do make one. Malt is a tricky one. My husband's been gluten twice, and I think that's actually really great for a 10-year run. I almost glutened him one time though, because there's a beverage called Not Your Father's Root Beer. It's a hard soda. I was like, oh babe, this sounds delicious. You should try it, right? I usually read every ingredient, but I didn't because I thought it's root beer. It's not. It's malted alcoholic beverage root beer. So luckily he checked the label first and I did not gluten him. I've glutened myself several times though doing this. Like someone's like, oh, do you want a seltzer? Or, yeah. So I am a little bit more careful with him than myself. The other thing I would say is, what happened to gluten? People say this to me a lot. Well, my parents ate gluten and they were just fine. Or my grandparents ate gluten and they were just fine. Most of us in this room, your grandparents didn't eat the wheat that we eat today. So there's a nice book called Wheat Belly, and it goes through the really deep science of this. So it gets a little dry. But basically what happened is they took wheat and they had a really good intention, right? They wanted to feed the whole wide world. So they genetically modified wheat to make more output, to make a bigger crop. And they shrunk it down, right? So that song, with amber waves of grain, we now have mini amber waves of grain. So when a storm came through, it wouldn't knock the whole crop down and you'd lose your crop. So when they modified it thousands of times, they never stopped and did any human safety studies. So the inside protein structure of the food itself has changed. It is a new food. It is a frankenfood. It is not the wheat that your grandparents ate. One theory and why everyone's getting celiac disease and gluten sensitivity is because of Roundup, right? Glyphosate. So it's a chemical that's put on food, right? And I have a lot of farmers. One of my favorite stories is one of my wheat farmers was telling me about wheat. She's like, yeah, I know, I grow wheat. And she was telling me that they harvest the wheat and they spray it with the pesticides to kill the bugs. And then they ship it to the factory. And if it has too many bugs in it, the factory ships it back. And then they spray it for bugs again. And then they ship it back to the factory. I'm not worried about the bugs, right? We probably eat a fair amount of bugs. I don't want to eat the bugs that absorbed the pesticides and died in the grain that's covered in pesticides. So grains aren't high up on my list of foods for people to eat because they're really dirty in that regard. And because a lot of grains get cross-contaminated, right? When they're harvested and put in these big warehouses and they kick up all the dust, which if you've ever cooked, you've seen that dust in the air. A lot of times, like even oats, although they're technically gluten-free, will get wheat dust on them. So it's just a lot to grains. So those are kind of your big sources that jump out at you. But gluten's real sneaky. So it hides in a whole lot of things. Like I mentioned earlier about almost accidentally glutening my husband. This is tricky. So we just had Halloween, right? So there's a lot of candy floating around. This is where it gets real tricky. Reese's peanut butter cups are gluten-free. Holiday shapes are not. So if you look on the holiday shapes, you won't see them labeled as gluten-free. Twizzlers, licorice. Almost all licorice has wheat in it, right? Really weird stuff. So lots of candies, sauces, and marinades are really tricky. A lot of times they'll have barley syrup in them, right? What is barley syrup? So malt was on the earlier slide, soy sauce. Now, Wegmans, sushi and soy sauce that they give out is all gluten-free. We eat a lot of Wegman sushi at my house. And then some spices. So you have to become a really good label reader, and we're going to look at that. In the US, wheat is supposed to be listed under allergens. It's supposed to be. For foods, there's no regulation around medications or supplements. So if you're on medications, you could be getting contaminated and you don't know it. This is one of the gluten-free labels. There's a couple of them floating out there. So look for that label. Sometimes it's a picture of wheat with a line through it. I wish there was a little more standardization. And then look through that label for any of the gluten-containing ingredients. So what about cross-contamination? So this is why I encourage my celiac families to treat gluten like a peanut allergy. Or I'll tell people treat it like raw chicken. So anything it touches is now contaminated. So if you live in a home with someone with celiac disease and you put your regular bread in there and then they put their gluten-free bread in there, they're contaminated. All it takes is a couple crumbs of bread to make someone sick. That's how little gluten they need. Restaurants, unless they have a separate preparation area, cross-contaminated. Fryers. So fryers is a big one. Most of your better restaurants will be able to tell you now if they have they'll call it a separate fryer or a shared fryer. And it's really fun to hear them talk about how often they change their oil. It's real gross. So, like if we're out to eat, French fries, potatoes should be gluten-free unless they're coated. But if they're in a shared fryer with chicken fingers, they're going to have some level of gluten in them. The amount depends on how often they change their oil, right? So a good restaurant should be able to tell you what's going on in their kitchen. And then factories, especially during the holidays, almost all Halloween candy and Christmas candy and Easter candy is cross-contaminated. So unless it's certified gluten-free, because they're running the lines so fast and changing them over so quickly. There's a lot of weird candies with gluten in them that you wouldn't imagine, like crackle. So, yeah, lots of sources of cross-contamination. Does everyone need to worry about cross-contamination? Like, does a gluten-sensitive person need to worry? It kind of depends on that person. We don't cross-contaminate at my house, meaning if we go out to eat and they have a shared fryer, we do not order French fries. That's the choice that we've made for our health. It's the choice my husband's made for his health, and then by default, we make that for the children. Other people are like, meh, it's fine, it's low enough, I'll take it. There is a regulation, it's like 10 parts per million, I want to say, is the threshold that people have determined that can make you sick. But if you really dig into that research, it's not a good research study. So it's just kind of a made-up level. Oh, and sorry, I have like a little bit of a cold, so if I'm a little sniffly, I apologize, or if I gotta grab a drink. All right, so man, this sounds like kind of complicated. So let's look at how to read a label. First thing is look for one of the many gluten-free symbols on it. This can be really confusing to people. My in-laws, bless, are like 74 and 89 years old, right? And they love to bring the children things. And most of it is brands they know they can have. But sometimes they'll pick up a box of cereal that says organic or all natural, and they think that means gluten-free, right? They're really doing the best they can. And so sometimes we're like, oh, no, this isn't the right logo, right? It's really confusing. So see if you can find a certification on it. If you can't, then read your label. So this label is easy because the first ingredient is whole grain wheat. So we know that's a hard no. And then look to see if it has an allergen statement. So after it lists your ingredients, it should say contains wheat, sesame, eggs, dairy. They're supposed to label it with the top allergens. Then sometimes you'll see this really confusing piece, may contain. And this is where it makes it really hard. So I live in Lidditz. We have Wilbur chocolate, right? Best chocolate ever. Every single Wilbur product will say may contain wheat, nuts, dairy, the whole big long list. So then it's a little bit of a toss-up because unless it's made in a dedicated factory, they have to put that statement on there. So then you got to decide, are you going to roll the dice? How good is that chocolate? It's very expensive now. All right. So it's easy to kind of get lost, and this stuff can be kind of tricky, right? So how do you actually navigate this life? You really got to plan ahead. So it's just like planning ahead for a snack when you get home so you don't overindulge in a bag of potato chips because they're quick. This is probably the most difficult part about living a gluten-free life, in my opinion, is lack of convenience, right? So we've got traveling down pretty good in that I travel with a charcuterie box that my husband packs me, and he makes a really big one, so it's enough for the way there and the way back. But that took us a while to learn because we used to just pack for the way there. But what we learned is airports are among the worst place to try and get gluten-free food, right? I remember we were flying from Vegas from a conference, and there was like a Moe's. We're like, oh, we can get Moe's, right? We can just get chicken and rice in a bowl. And then when we went through, they had gloves on, but they were scooping with their hands into every single container. There's a great restaurant in Lancaster called Luca, and they have a gluten-free pizza option. But when we talked to them, they're like, oh, you're going to want to look at our kitchen first, right? Beautiful kitchen, ladle on every pizza, right? So a lot of restaurants cross-contaminate. So traveling is tricky. So we travel with food. When we just went to Florida, we traveled with food. We get beef jerky, beef sticks, dried mango, a couple little treats we know the kids can have, and that's how we travel. So either packing your own meal or bringing a dish is a really great trick. The nice thing too about bringing a dish is you know you have something to eat, and you can introduce people to other fun things or make sure you're bringing a healthy option. Because so many of the holiday gatherings we go to have a lot of good, bad stuff, right? So bring a nice, big, beautiful salad. Sometimes it feels a little bit awkward bringing a dish, and we did this a lot when the kids were little, as I would just pack them a dinner and take it right into the restaurant. We were only ever questioned once. And I said, I'll pay you $4.95 for your hot dog that you can't bring my children, but these are the foods that they don't eat. Can you accommodate that? And they're like, sorry. So most people are like pretty understanding. It can feel a little bit awkward, but so many people travel with their own food now because so many people have food intolerances and allergies. So I've gotten really good at packing food, and I always have snacks in my purse, which is over in the other room, but I usually have a beef stick. And my new favorite is Magic Spoons. It's a cereal company, but they have these protein bars because I'm on the protein kick. So it's like 12 grams of protein and like 2 grams of sugar, and it tastes like a Rice Krispie treat. So I try not to do a whole lot of processed stuff, but like I try and keep some snacks in my bag for traveling. And my absolute favorite place, and I wish I was on their payroll, is Costco. I can tell you all the things I get at Costco. Love Costco. So these are some really easy swaps, right? So if you're thinking ahead of like, I have a gluten-free friend that's coming, or I'm going to an event and I want to make sure I bring something gluten-free that I can enjoy, what can you swap out? So a really easy one is stuffing. You can just use gluten-free bread. It'll cost you 3 times as much, but you can do it, right? We call this the gluten tax. Really interesting, in Italy, if you have celiac disease, they actually give you a stipend to help afford gluten-free food. I know we're moving to Italy. Yeah. Other countries do that because it's a medical necessity, right?
How about like, oh, I go to France and I can eat all the bread there?
Yeah.
Something about European bread.
Yeah, so we hear that a lot. So a couple reasons why. One is they're using a different wheat, right? American food is completely different. If you take someone from Mexico City and you plop them in the middle of Pennsylvania and they eat the exact same foods, corn tortillas, rice, black beans, they will get diabetes in this country because our food is that much different. There's some interesting research on that. Some people say, I go to Europe, I eat all the food and I feel fine. It's different additives and preservatives as well. In Italy, they do have something called Caputo flour, which starts off as wheat but is somehow gluten-free, which is real weird to me. We've chosen not to do gluten-free but wheat-derived products in my house because that's just our choice. So like Trader Joe's jelly beans use a wheat glucose syrup, but they're still gluten-free because there's no gluten protein in it. But I find that very bizarre. But yeah, we hear that a lot. I went to Italy, I ate all the pasta. I went to France, I ate all the bread, I felt fine. Yeah. So I went to Switzerland, I ate pounds of cheese. I felt 100% over there. I don't normally eat a lot of dairy, particularly in this country, but like that Swiss, not totally Swiss cheese, but the Switzerland cheese, so good. Yeah. Gravy is a really easy one, right? Arrowroot or cornstarch does the same thickening thing as flour, right? You just make a slurry. You've probably done this before. So that's actually a really easy one. Pie crust. My husband does the grocery shopping and 99% of the cooking. He just got gluten-free pie crust at Ebenezer's. That's a discount grocer in Ephrata. We get a lot of stuff there. It's a great way to try brands cheaper because sometimes you buy a gluten-free pie crust and it's disgusting, right? So now you're real happy you didn't spend $8 on it. So that's a great place to try things. Or if you have BB's or whatever discount grocers around. Or you can still make a gluten-free pie crust or an almond flour pie crust. The trick with baking in gluten-free is it changes the amount of liquids that you need because gluten is actually 2 proteins and they are like glue. That's why you can overwork your dough or you mix your dough till it gets really sticky. That's why pizza dough is so beautiful, right? It's gluten. So when you take gluten out of a flour, you have to have something to hold it together. And oftentimes that's xanthan gum. Where you run into trouble is if you have someone who's sensitive to gums, because remember, they're really big, then you got to find some other type of binder. I grabbed this cookbook from out front because it's a really nice cookbook. I don't know if you've ever seen this one. We've met this lady when we used to go to family days on the farm. She's quite lovely, but like any dairy-free, gluten-free, there's so many adaptations. This is just the nicest recipe book. I don't do a lot of recipe books because I just Google and then print them out, and then we just have like a big binder at home of all of our favorites. But or your library or your friends. I actually made you 3 recipes tonight. So a lot of times you'll find like what flour blend people use, but I cheat and I'll show you the flour blend that I use later on another slide. Rolls, just buy the pre-made gluten-free ones. And mac and cheese is like super easy. You just have to change around the time that your pastas cook, and it'll tell you that on the box. Very little has changed for us in terms of Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's dinners. So for Thanksgiving, I still eat turkey, cranberry sauce, mashed potatoes, rolls, gravy, stuffing, and green bean casserole. Not the gross green bean casserole. I make one that takes like 4 hours, but it's so good. The only swaps is cornstarch for the gravy. We get gluten-free pre-made rolls from the store. We make sure we get gluten-free fried onions, you know, the French's onions that go on top. And I get a gluten-free stuffing mix. But we still have the exact same Thanksgiving dinner. It seems kind of overwhelming at first, but once you like get your recipe down, you're in good shape. For Christmas, we still eat ham. You do want to watch your additives there. I make pineapple filling, which some of you from this area might know. It's like the weirdest food ever. It's like 8 cups of sugar, which we cut down to like 1 over the years. 2 loaves of gluten-free bread because they're small, a bunch of eggs, and crushed pineapple. Yeah. I don't know where that recipe came from, but we love it. My husband grew up eating it, so I just have to swap out the bread for that. We eat something called gourmet potatoes, which is like shredded potatoes and cheese and more cheese and cheese on top. That one's delicious unless you're dairy-free. Sweet potatoes are still the same. So there's actually like very little we had to change for Christmas dinner. And then New Year's, of course, we do pork and sauerkraut. Again, my husband's family's from here. They do some type of table syrup on the rolls, so all we had to change out was the rolls. So it seems like overwhelming at first, but then when you start swapping these things out, you're like, that's not bad. Now we're just used to it. All right. Playing it safe at potlucks, because a lot of time you travel for the holidays. This is a season where people have open houses, and they like to entertain. But try to set a new trend by labeling your dishes. So now that my kids are a little bit older, they're involved in some like homeschool groups and things, and we go to like meetups or their arts academy. And I'm kind of surprised that people still aren't labeling their dishes with the amount of allergens. Like every program my kids go to now is nut-free. So I just think it's like a really good habit. And if your crew isn't doing that, what a fun thing to introduce, right? You just like show up with like a cute little label, like an index card, and stick it to your dish and be like, hey, maybe we could all just start labeling our dishes. And then if you're eating at a potluck, focus on naturally gluten-free food, right? So my kids are getting really good at navigating this. We know vegetables are clear. We know fruits are clear, right? And then anything else, we ask mom and dad. And if you can't figure it out, just skip it because your health is not worth getting sick over and the food's probably not that good. All right. So speaking of safety, what do you do if you're cooking for someone? Like, oh my gosh, Cassandra and her family are coming to my house. What am I going to do, right? So I said a little bit earlier, treat it like a peanut allergy or like raw chicken. Anything that gluten's touched really has to be probably run through the dishwasher to destroy the proteins. So particularly wooden things, wooden cutting boards, wooden spoons, right? When my husband got diagnosed with celiac, we had to throw a lot of things away. And over time, we've evolved anyway. Like we try to get rid of all the plastic stuff because it's not good for us. Serving dishes, I talked about appliances earlier. This is the really annoying thing. Gluten's airborne for 24 hours. So that's why if a bakery isn't a dedicated gluten-free bakery, if they're baking gluten-free, they either have to shut the bakery down for 24 hours and then do it, or they have to have a separate facility to truly call it gluten-free. And there's an issue with a in-home bakery a couple years ago that was selling gluten-free products, but they were all cross-contaminated. So, and then if you are making things like stock, chicken stock and beef stock sometimes will have gluten in it. So when you're cooking for somebody else, you really got to read every label. If you're hosting, then I would say, like we said, label your items. One thing I try and do for my family is if we're at a potluck or a buffet, let the people with allergies go first before all the food becomes cross-contaminated. This happens really easily. So you have a dip and people are dipping individual crackers in, or you're serving barbecue, they dip their spoon in and they spread it over top of the bread and put the spoon back in. So if you let the people who are sensitive fix their plates first, or if you go first, then you know nothing's been cross-contaminated to the best of your ability. And if you're hosting, just focus on a few key dishes, right? So do you have to make gluten-free green bean casserole and gluten-free stuffing and gluten-free rolls? No. Like your turkey should be inherently gluten-free. If you have like a meat, a side, and a treat, like, man, that person's going to be thrilled, right? So that's what I try to do with the recipes. I give you a really beautiful salad that my nurse enjoys. I did a gluten-free pumpkin pie recipe. And then I did my favorite stuffing recipe, which is just from the back of Jillian's stuffing mix. I would be thrilled if I rolled up to someone's house and they had all those options for me. And you can always ask the person for help too. Like, what do you like to eat? What are your go-to brands? Honestly, people are just so happy that you're willing to accommodate them. It's really appreciated. Okay, so I kept teasing I would tell you what I like to use. That's the Jillian's with a G stuffing. She also makes the best garlic bread. So that's my favorite stuffing, and that's the recipe that I printed out for you. There's also a little summary of today. These Char croissants, we just found those. They're so good. I hadn't had a good croissant in like 10 years. So that was delicious. Sweet Loren's, I never get to actually bake these cookies because my kids eat the cookie dough. You're not supposed to, I know. But like those are at Target, those are at Giant. They're all over the place. They have a lot of different flavors. They had like pink Barbie cookies. They're also dye-free. So we have a non and no-nos in my family. So that meets all of our no-nos. I use Bob's Red Mill 1-to-1 or Simple Mills mixed gluten-free, organic gluten-free flour that I'll use. This Bob's Red Mill 1-to-1, it's literally just cup for cup, and it already has your stabilizers in it. So unless you're sensitive to stabilizers and gums, that's my go-to. Simple Mills almond crackers are my favorite. I say this silly thing, I like the way they squeak on my teeth. They're the best crackers. The bummer, though, and I'll use this to talk about another point, they have seed oils in them, which I'm real sad about. So I don't know if you've seen the news, but seed oils are out. They are awful for you. Now, it's organic sunflower seed oil. Still seed oil. So I'm hoping that companies start to take these out. I think seed oils are bad enough for you. It may not become a choice for companies soon. They're that bad. So it's a better choice, but I have a cute little saying, gluten-free Oreos are still Oreos, right? They're not an everyday food. So I've tried to start changing my language with my children and not calling things good and bad in terms of food. I say it's an everyday food or it's a sometimes food, right? Or it's a rare food, or sometimes we have never foods. But gluten-free Oreos are still Oreos. Are they any healthier for you? Not really. They're just gluten-free, right? So a lot of this stuff is highly processed replacement products. So yeah, you're going to eat some over the holidays. It should not make up the vast majority of your diet, right? I'm a big believer in paleo. Meats, fruits, veggies, eggs, seeds, nuts. That's like my staple diet. And then at Christmas, you get some Loren's cookies, right? Or you get a croissant. It's a really exciting time. These French fried onions we often find at the discount store, which is awesome. We do a lot of discount store shopping because the way we eat is very expensive. We eat like 99% organic. It's real expensive. And there's so many great discount stores. And then these gluten-free egg noodles I've only ever found at Stouffer's. They're so good, right? I try not to eat a lot of noodles. I try and do high protein, low carb. I never knew about brown butter until I met my husband. And then I found the magic of brown butter. And brown butter noodles are so good. But that's a sometimes food. And, what's really important about the holidays? Is it all of these beautiful foods? Not really. It's getting together with your friends and your family. And then I'm a big fan of scripting, right? If I get nervous or something happens, if I have some scripting that I've practiced, I can fall back on that. So if someone's like, oh my gosh, I worked really hard on these cookies, just eat one, you'll be fine, right? Thank you, it looks delicious, but I really have to prioritize my health. Or, oh man, I would really love to. I just can't. So find a little phrase that works for you that you can use, because some people just don't get it, right? Like my husband's parents, they're really good now. It's taken us several years to get them like where they're at. But in the beginning, everyone was like, what do you mean you can't eat gluten, right? Well, everybody has celiac disease now. Like, well, can't you cure that? Can you ever outgrow that? Can you get a shot for that, right? So people just don't know. And Thanksgiving dinner is not really where you want to like start talking about leaky guts and zonulin. But just some like quick little easy phrase that you say with a smile, then it'll be fine. Focus on what you can have, right? So find a new recipe to change up that old family favorite. Host a gluten-free cookie swap, right? Get other people on the gluten-free bandwagon too. Try international dishes like pavlova. Pavlova's delicious. So this is what pavlova looks like. It's like meringue with fruit on it, right? Love it. Meats, fruits, and veggies are all gluten-free unless humans do something weird to them, right? Like start injecting meat with stuff. But meat should be gluten-free. And instead of focusing on like, what are we going to have for dessert? Like have a cup of tea. Laugh, enjoy your time, right? We don't have to get super focused in on all the food. It's fun, but it can be a lot. All right. Okay. And I've said this a couple times, like focusing on the foods that are naturally gluten-free is so much easier than reading labels. So what I tell my patients when I see them, is you can go in that big shiny aisle, right? Because every grocery store has one now. And you can just like start reading labels and it's so overwhelming and it takes forever. And then you get frustrated and then you're like, forget this, right? I'm just going to go get it when I normally get. But if you stick on that perimeter of the grocery store, that's where all the good stuff is. The inside is the money trap and all the processed stuff. Let's try and stick to that outside and like eat real food. Who knew? I told you I have the stuffing recipe for you, the salad and the dessert. So feel free to grab those on your way out. And also there's a one-page summary of the talk. And yeah, I mean, like health has got to be your number one priority. It's always like, cost benefit. So what's the cost of my health versus the benefit of eating this cookie? We're here to be a resource for you. A lot of our staff are gluten-free, have been for a long time, or know a lot about being gluten-free. Our providers are a great resource. We also have a really great nutrition team that are happy to see you as a patient as well. They're really reasonably priced and they can do in-between visits or if you're just feeling kind of lost. We have that great cookbook here. Ask your friends because chances are a lot of them have a very specific way that they eat now. And then of course like libraries and the internet are all great resources as well. And, I think that's my last one. So I'm happy to take any questions to see if we can brainstorm a way that you have like a family favorite recipe that you want to adapt or talk about anything. Were there any online questions?
Yes, please share your recipes and Costco favorites.
Costco favorites. Oh my goodness. Okay. I try and limit my dairy, but I'm not dairy free, particularly because I'm really trying to push the protein right now. So I did get the 20-gram protein Chobani yogurt in the case at Costco. We always buy 2 boxes of the green label butter when we're there because it's New Zealand butter. Heavenly Hunks are my downfall. And sometimes they go out of stock at Costco. They're so good. I take 2, I zip up the bag, and I put the bag away. They're relatively clean. And they're very filling and very, very fulfilling. So I love the Heavenly Hunks. Egg bites all day, every day. I'm not a no pork person. They're pork sausage patties are super good. Babysitter nights, my kids get Costco gluten-free pizza. Anything Siete. Siete brand is the absolute best. When they have the churro chips, oh my goodness. I get their avocado mash. I don't like Udis, so we do not get gluten-free bread at Costco. Aussie Bites, one of my favorites. They have a ton of omega-3s in them. I'm so sorry online. I'm coughing, and now I'm going to take a drink. It's going to sound real weird. Sorry. Yeah. What else do I love from Costco? They used to have cauliflower rice in a bag, which was so convenient to like take to work. It was a tear-off bag, but I haven't seen that for a while. Costco now has Kirkland brand grass-fed meat sticks. So we haven't opened those yet. We just bought those yesterday. Organic dried mango. Now, dried fruits are incredibly high in sugar. So it's not a mommy food, it's a kid food. Pistachios. Trying to like think with my little cart. Gluten-free gummy bears. The organic gummy bears there have no dyes. It's Black Forest brand. Not all Black Forest brand is organic, but they do have those there. So that's a great treat for the kids. Oh, those peanut butter protein bars. Those are so good. Do you know which ones I'm talking about? They're in the refrigerator aisle. There's like a box of regular peanut butter and a box of peanut butter and chocolate, and everyone fights over the ones with the chocolate chips in them. My husband just found they had pumpkin spice ones at the discount store. I forget the brand. Is it Perfect Protein? Perfect bars, yes. Don't leave them in your purse too long because they'll like get real oily. They're better from the fridge. Oh my gosh, they have the best broccoli. Yeah, their broccoli's so good. Yeah, they have a like a veggie mix. So people are like, "What does your family eat if you don't eat gluten?" Oh my gosh, so much stuff. My husband makes a great meatball with no breadcrumbs in it because you don't actually need them. He makes a really good crab cake as well. But my favorite is sheet pan meals. Chicken thighs, 3 veggies, Wegmans basting oil. That's it. 1 pan, minimal cleanup. Put your parchment down. We actually put foil down and then parchment on top for like even easier cleanup. And then in our head, we're like not touching the foil. But that's like my go-to dinner is sheet pan meals or Kevin's meals. So Kevin's is great. Kevin's is a super clean pre-made dinner. So last night we had their Hawaiian chicken because it was like who felt like cooking on Sunday night. And then frozen broccoli, and the kids had rice with it. The Kevin's meals aren't quite enough for a family of 4. They're a little bit pricey, but for those late like sports nights, they're just the best thing ever. Their beef with broccoli is good. They have another chicken one. Yeah. This is why I should get paid by Costco.
Yeah. For brand ambassador.
I know. Oh, and they have gluten-free, dye-free macaroons. Macarons. Those little, yeah. On the end cap.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
The butter. They now have a Kirkland brand butter, I believe. That's also green.
Yeah. The green box is,
Yeah.
it's like a New Zealand.
Is that fine?
Yeah.
Okay.
So even if you don't do dairy, most of us still say butter is paleo. And my husband and I tried to do the math because he didn't believe me on this one, but we couldn't figure it out. There's not really any dairy protein in butter. It's all fat, right? So you can do ghee, which is clarified butter. I think ghee tastes a little barny, and I'm real picky about my butter. I only like the Costco green butter now. Yeah. But yeah, so most people still consider butter part of a paleo diet. So there's some like, there's a keto crunch at Costco, which is like a granola, and there's some butter in there. Catalina Crunch is at Morningstar Farms. They have great cereals, and they're high protein, low carb. Keto, a lot of keto recipes are easy to do, and paleo recipes because they almost never have grains in them. So that's like another shortcut I'll do is just Google like paleo crock pot meals or whatever. Yeah. Was that, they wanted to know what my favorite Costco stuff was, and yeah.
There's a few others.
Yeah.
Here, but some of them are the same.
Also give a plug to Trader Joe's. We do not have one here. We have one by the Mechanicsburg office, and my kids love when I go to Mechanicsburg because I will stop at Trader Joe's. It's not always the cleanest stuff, but it's dye-free. So my kids have been able to have like Cheetos from there. It's a sometimes food, right? They have so much good stuff there. That's relatively cleaner. I don't know if Lancaster will ever get a Trader Joe's. I literally ask every time I go. And they say probably not, because we have too many meat markets down here. And grocery stores make their money off meat, right? So even the Camp Hill Trader Joe's, because there's Carnes up there, they don't sell a lot of meat. Everybody goes for the snacks, and they don't make their money off the snacks. Yeah. They have gluten-free pizza dough there as well. Really good for making your own.
Did you say Costco has a gluten-free pizza?
Yeah, they do. It's a 2-pack. We get the cheese, and then we buy nitrate-free pepperoni, and we put our own pepperoni on.
Is that a cauliflower crust?
It's not a cauliflower crust. It's a regular gluten-free one, but I think they might also have the cauliflower there.
They just do have a cauliflower crust pizza.
Our favorite gluten-free pizza is Manischewitz. Has a great gluten-free pizza.
One is it possible for you to share those recipes with us virtually? Which, yes.
Kayla says she will 100% do that. Yeah, we'll share those for you. Although, like I said, the stuffing recipe is literally from the back of the Jillian stuffing mix. They sold out the other year, and there was marital discord in my house over this, because I really love Jillian stuffing. So if you see it, buy it now. Don't wait too long. She also makes croutons. Yeah, but I really love to like zhuzh up that stuffing with this recipe. It's like sausage. You add sausage to it, and then it gets real fancy. Yeah. But yeah, pretty much anything we've made gluten-free in my house. I'm also very fortunate. There's a 100% gluten-free bakery in Lidditz. Erica Joy bakes. She's quite lovely. She's trying to get rid of her seed oils. Most of her breads have olive oils except for one that I can't remember off the top of my head. She also has a bread, like weekly share option. I love her oatmeal style bread. She does a big round sourdough, and she does a baguette. Wegmans has gluten-free, dye-free. So all of Wegmans Bakery is now dye-free, which is fabulous. My kids were so excited. This is the first time they've had colored frosting on their birthday cakes. And it was blue, which was like a big deal. They do made to order gluten-free cakes. And then if you're just like need a last minute dessert and you go in, a lot of their stuff is gluten-free. A lot of their fruit torts are. I've had tiramisu there. There's a bunch of them that are, which is really nice.
What is the name of the cookbook and the author? And where can they buy it?
I don't know where you can get it outside of us, not just for a plug for us, but this is called Beyond Gluten-Free Cooking, and there's not a name on it. Let's open the title page. Yeah, I don't know who the author is on this one. It might be Michelle Fox, because her address is on here. Oh, there we go. Yeah, so this is just really nice because there's so many options in here. Like here's a chicken noodle casserole. Yeah, we've made chicken noodle soup. What is it called when you put the mashed potatoes on top of the ground beef? Shepherd's pie is a really nice one that we do. We try and make extra and freeze it too. Like when we make meatballs, we make like 5 pounds of meatballs. It's a lot of meatballs. Gluten-free noodles don't freeze well, and they don't always keep real well. So we don't like make a whole lot of pasta to begin with. Oh, gluten-free pasta, my favorite is cassava. Cassava has a real nice texture, so Jovial is the name of that one. I can tell you all the gluten-free restaurants at Ocean City, Maryland as well. And in Delaware. And like, where do we go to eat in Lancaster? Yeah. We love Harvest. We had one incident at Harvest, which was very upsetting. I ordered off the specials menu. Harvest gluten-free noodles are always penne. And I know this. And they brought it. And I said, is this gluten-free? And she said, yeah, it just looks different because it's off the special menu. I said, okay. So I took a bite and I was like, this is the best gluten-free pasta I've ever had. And Frankie's like, give me a bite. And I'm like, okay. So I give her a bite. And the waitress whips around and she's like, stop eating. So they were very upset and they did comp us our whole meal. But I told them the bigger issue is trust, because that's one of our go-to places. And I sent a lot of patients there. But we've been back several times since then and it's been very good. Now, this is not a healthy recommendation, but Chick-fil-A grilled nuggets are gluten-free, and so are their French fries. Their sauces are not healthy, right? They're a bunch of soybean oil. It's still fast food. But if we're traveling in a pinch, we will stop there. However, if you're on your way to the beach, stop at Kickin' Chicken in Delaware. And their chicken's phenomenal. Other places in Lancaster, Cole Chop House in Lidditz. It used to be like Black Forge or whatever. They have a beautiful gluten-free menu. John J. Jeffrey's, almost their whole menu is gluten-free or can be made gluten-free. Barbara Ray in the city. We were just there this weekend, just before Jekyll and Hyde. Great show, but I think it's over. Barbara Ray is great. The Belvedere is great. Double C has an amazing burger without the bun. C'est la vie, super good. That's the upstairs restaurant from Josephine's. Josephine's is downstairs. Excellent, but special occasion only. Yeah. Yeah. This place right here, what's it called? Yes, they have a gluten-free crab cake. We've eaten there. Kava. Core Life is like my favorite. I love Core Life. My kids are fascinated because they can get all the drinks there, right? It's like, remember when you were a kid and you would like mix all the sodas together? My kids do that with all their like little organic juices. That's the only place they've ever done that. The sub place right next to Core Life at that plaza, what's that sub place? Is that Jimmy? Not Jimmy John's.
No, it's
Whatever that sub place is right there. There's like Chick-fil-A and Core Life. Yeah. So my husband likes it there because they have a whole protocol, right? So when you alert to a gluten allergy, they change all the paper out, they change gloves, and they change the knife. So he feels very safe eating there. Where has he gotten sick? That big Mexican place across from Home Depot.
oh yeah.
Yeah, we ordered off the gluten-free menu. You got to watch. A lot of those places, the chips are not actually gluten-free. So that's one of the few times he's gotten really sick. Other cross-contaminated places, we went to a party, and he got sick after being there at a friend's house, even though he was very careful. Something was cross-contaminated. And one time we were at another friend's house, and they had Middlesworth barbecue chips, which are the best barbecue chips on the face of the earth. They're also made with wheat flour. So he like ate like 3 little pieces, and he was like, "These are Middlesworth." And then he didn't get sick that time, but his belly instantly blew up. What do you do if you get gluten? Yeah. Now that we're so used to it, I don't. But in the beginning, I would always carry DG Rescue. It's a digestive enzyme that breaks down 90% of gluten and dairy within 90 minutes. So the problem is once he's been glutened, he can't get anything down. So in the beginning, we would use it like before we went out to eat just in case. But now we primarily know where we can go. There's some other places in the city too that I can't think of right now. Cella's. So Cella's, there's one out here across from Costco. They are 100% gluten-free. And they just opened a storefront in Lancaster City. Slovaki Brothers. Jersey Mike's. Yeah. Jersey Mike's is great. Slovaki Boys, downtown Lancaster for... Yeah. We get their bowls and their fries. Yeah, you have to watch Gyro Meat. Yeah.
I will say, like, for parties, something I've discovered the hard way recently is, like, people have, I usually stick to veggies, fruits, and nuts sometimes. And depending, like, people have the nuts in a dish and it looks beautiful, and you're like, that should be gluten-free and all the things free. And sometimes if they're from, like, I know the Planters brand, they have on the label may contain wheat, which, like, I'm too sensitive for that. So
Yeah.
That's been something I've reacted to, and I've had to, like, it's not the most fun, but ask the host if I really want to eat it. Like,
Are these Planters nuts? Yeah.
Or, do you know what brand these are? Yeah.
I do that a lot at like food trucks or restaurants. I'm like, can you show me the container?
Yeah.
And a lot of times they will, which is really great because sometimes like someone working in a food truck, they don't understand the ingredients. I really wish everybody who worked in food services had to have an allergen course. So celiac, yes, my husband will throw up. The bigger issue is long-term risk, right? With repeated exposure to gluten increases his risk of certain cancers and things, and he's already high risk for those. But some people have anaphylaxis to gluten, or peanuts or dairy or whatever it is. And so I really feel like everybody should have to have like some type of serve safe certification. But, particularly in Lancaster County, a lot of times it's families and kids running booths, and yeah. So it's definitely changed our life. It's made it less convenient. I feel bad for my husband because he was never wanted to be like that guy to like complain about food or ask too much about a menu. And now he has to be that guy. But more and more, it's gotten easier to go out, easier to find things, easier to travel. Here's a really funny thing. Celiac disease qualifies you for a disability pass to the National Park System. I know. There's like a whole lot of disabilities that qualify. So we now have a pass to Assateague. Yeah. Trying to think what else. Halloween's a little bit hard. We do let our kids go trick-or-treating. And we tell them just have fun. Same thing for parades, right? We go to parades. All the kids are grabbing the candy. We tell them just have fun with it, and they do. And then they just hand all the candy to the kids next to them, which I have mild guilt about because I know it's really unhealthy, but that's that parent's choice, right? I don't live in their kitchen. And the same thing now. So Hershey's has moved to vanillin instead of vanilla. Hershey's, if you're listening, except for their plain Hershey bars. But like I said earlier, they have TBHQ in them now. So yeah, that's really hard. So my kids don't basically get to eat any Halloween candy. If you do give out candy for something, we do the Teal Pumpkin Project, where we put out all allergen-friendly candy. So is it Yum brand? I think it's Yum brand. We buy big bags of it at Target. We put out our Teal Pumpkin. And then we also get some non-food items, just little like stampers and bouncy balls and play tube things, so that kids who can't have any candy still have something. So that's something that's near and dear to our heart. Yeah. Man, I think that's all. Yeah.
You mentioned in the beginning when your 3-year-old ate the cookie.
Yeah.
And I've been mostly gluten free, and we're trying to like process it out of the house. But my 3-year-old, like you mentioned, like she was potty trained, but having accidents, and like I've run into that. Do you think it's from gluten?
Yeah. So I'll get into the weeds with this one. One of the fancy tests we ran on my daughter is called a wheat zoomer. And so not only does it look at every pearl on that necklace, it runs some antibodies that can cross the blood-brain barrier. So gluteomorphone and proteonorphin, right? So gluteomorphone sounds like morphine because it hits a very similar center in the brain. So there's been some real interesting studies done. So she had a neurological reaction to gluten, and it was primarily neurological. There was a study done in Texas by that company that does that testing, and it was a group of boys that were identified as having ADD, and the school thought should be medicated. They took the gluten and dairy out of those kids' diet. Behavior settled right down. When people get real cranky when they go on a diet, you can actually go through gluten withdrawal. So if you test positive for those antibodies and I take gluten away, you're really going to crave it. And I think sometimes that's why people get so grumpy when they go on a diet. Sure, they're not eating the same foods and they're probably in a little bit of a carb deficit. Some people get real cranky, and you have to wonder if that's not why. There's whole books out on gluten, dairy, autism, and ADD. I'm not saying I'm going to cure autism by taking a kid off gluten and dairy. There's extensive research on behaviors. So when you can start linking behaviors in kids to they had Sunday school and they gave out a snack at Sunday school, or they were at grandma and grandpa's, I think particularly when you notice like a cause and effect, it might not be the best fuel for that kiddo, right?
Would you like look for that within like a few hours or the next day?
Yeah, everybody's a little bit different, but oftentimes you'll see these behaviors pretty quickly, right? Sugar doesn't amp kids up. It's only their nonsense and candy, right? Yeah. We've known for a long time that dye is really bad, right? So why do people still give kiddos things with dye in them? I mean, if you don't know, but then once you know, you can't unknow, so then you're making a choice, right? Not trying to like parent shame anybody. These are choices we all make, right? I have friends who are way stricter on what their kids eat than even what my kids eat. And then my husband will push back. I'll be like, we need to be oat-free and dairy-free. And he's like, slow your roll, right? He's like, I can't narrow my world anymore. So this is one of my other favorite sayings. You got to do the best you can without going crazy. And stress is a tipping point. So if I have someone sitting in my office crying that they can't do one more thing, is it fair for me to say, guess what? You're going to go on a paleo diet. Like, no, there's a time and a place. Can that be our goal? Sure. But it sounds like you're already making some really positive changes. So what else do you see flare them up? Is it nuts? Is it eggs, right? Is it a combination of things when you've overfilled the bucket? They can handle a little bit of this, but if it was like a lot going on that weekend, they had a little more candy than normal, someone gave them a baked good, and they're getting a cold, like, phew, you're done. Yeah. So sometimes you can find a tipping point. And that's how I talk about cheating on diets too, right? So I've made the choice to never consciously eat gluten. That's my choice. I don't live in your kitchen, right? I don't go grocery shopping with you. That doesn't have to be your choice. So sometimes people will find, a tipping point where they can go to a wedding and not be that person and eat a meal, maybe feel a little bloated the next day, but they're okay, right? But then if they have something that weekend, the next weekend, and the next weekend, like then they find they're in trouble again. So people will say to me, do I have to be gluten-free forever? And I'll say, only if you don't want to come back and see me again. But if you kind of go back to all those things that got you to where you were to begin with to bring you to me, you're going to end up coming back to see me again, right? So you have to find some type of balance in life. Like, I've reintroduced a little bit of dairy so I can try and hit my protein goal. I feel okay. We'll see what happens long term, right? I probably won't do it forever. So I'm a little bit more flexible on dairy. Other people are like, I could never do dairy, but I'll experiment a little bit with gluten here and there. You have to find what works for your family. I will say I have a huge advantage. My husband does 99% of the grocery shopping, 99% of the cooking, and my children were this way from the start. So there's a lot of foods they've just never had. They didn't know we were different until really this summer. The karate studio was giving out popsicles, the plastic tube ones. And my kids were like, can we have one? And I was like, is that a color God made? No. And then the poor karate teacher, his parents come. Hi. And they're like, oh my gosh, are we hurting the kids? And I was like, well, the research on dyes is not good, right? But the truth is all those kids are eating dye at home too. So my son was like, I feel embarrassed. I was like, dude, let's talk about that. Why do you feel embarrassed? He's like, well, we couldn't have that popsicle. I'm like, you have a huge organic Johnny Pop waiting for you at home, right? They're like this big. I'm like, I think you can walk half a block and get a popsicle. That's a much healthier choice. But it was the first time that they noticed they were different, right? So then we talk a lot about like, what does this mean for your health? And like, how do you fuel your body? I like to use the word fuel a lot. I don't like to use the word like diet with children. My kids are very active, right? So like they get to eat some extra stuff I don't get to eat. Yeah. It's find what works for your family. That was a very long answer. Yeah. I think the other really hard thing with kiddos is setting boundaries with other people. Yeah, so we just really had it was a hard and fast rule. Like, my kid can't get in your car without a car seat. My kid can't eat gluten. And then really helping the grandparents find what they could have to treat them with. And it's hard in a shifting landscape. I really love my father-in-law. He's 89. And, he was looking at the kids' Halloween candy and here's the pile they can't have. And here's the 3 things they were allowed to have. And he's like, why are they doing this? Why do they got to put the artificial stuff in? I'm like, I don't know, Pappy. That's our question too, right? So it's kind of fun to start to influence other people's health in a positive way. Yeah. Anything else? Oh my gosh, did I use up all the time? That's amazing. I was like, this is going to be 10 minutes. Yay. Well, thank you so much, everybody on the online community, for coming and for your questions. Kayla will post things for you. Feel free to shoot us a message. Somebody will forward it to me. And thank you to all of you for coming. I had so much fun. Yay.